Think of the very birth of four-wheel drive Porsches, and you'll probably summon up images like this of a Rothmans liveried 959 conquering the Paris-Dakar. Lovely, isn't it? The 964 was the first 911 to get four-wheel drive, and the car was actually launched as a Carrera 4, with the rear-wheel drive version only arriving the following year. Since then, they've been a staple of every 911 range, and this new 991 C4S in aqua blue, with the latest Porsche traction management, which can't speak for four-wheel drive, is the most sophisticated yet. But the marriage between a Porsche badge and four-wheel drive actually goes back much further than the 959. We're heading through a sopping wet Austria to the very first Porsche factory in Gmünd. It's an old sawmill, which now looks like little more than a large shed in a field. Why are we here? Well, the answer can be found in the Pfeifhofer Museum nearby. Amongst the engines, a gorgeous Martini liveried 935 and a fascinating cutaway of a 968 are a couple of pictures of the very first car to bear the Porsche name. It's not a 356 as you might think, but a racing car called a Cisitalia 360, and it had, yep, you guessed it, four-wheel drive. Of course, every good car factory needs some decent test roads nearby, and back in the late 40s Porsche was no exception. So, after we'd drunk our fill of the museum, we splashed off up into the mountains to find Knockoutstrasse. It's a public toll road, and it is 20 miles of just about the most incredible tarmac I think you'll find anywhere in the world. So the spec of car that we've got is a Carrera 4S. So we've got 394 brake horsepower, 324 pounds-foot of torque, and as we've got the PDK box and we've got a bit of Sport Chrono Plus going on over there, it'll do 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds. If you're geeky like me, you'll know that all those figures are exactly the same as the two-wheel drive Carrera S. So why do you want the 4S? Why do you want to pay the extra money? Well, it's fair to say that Evo's been fairly critical of the electric power assisted steering on 991. And the biggest difference that I can tell you about is the fact that it's better than the 4S. It seems the addition of a couple of extra drive shafts in the front axle just gives you more to play against in the corner. I absolutely love it up here. Just amazing. The views are unbelievable. So what other spec have got in here? Well, we've got 18-way adjustable seats which squeeze you in places that you probably didn't know you want to be squeezed. If I'm honest, I'd stick with the standard ones. We've also got a sunroof, which is rather nice, if you like that sort of thing. And perhaps most importantly, we've got a sports exhaust, as you can probably hear. I'd say, although we like manuals in cars, the new PDK box is pretty sublime. Changes is so fast. And on a road like this, where you've got so many hairpins, it's quite nice having both hands on the wheel so much of the time, being able to change down to first as well. I have to say it's actually quite a good thing that it's wet out there, because that was a situation where I certainly really struggled with electric power assisted steering in the standard two-wheel drive Carrera S. So it's nice to be able to try this one in the wet and see what difference it makes. The nice thing is, going something like this hairpin here, you really do get much more feel of what the front wheels are doing. Just seem to get more feedback from the front tyres, and that's so important in the 911. easiest way to tell you're looking at the 44mm wider rear haunches of an all-wheel drive 911 is by the iconic red light strip across the rump. Incidentally, up front you might have also noticed the Cyclops-like radar, which is linked to the adaptive cruise control and Porsche's new active safe system. All jolly clever. The four-wheel drive system can now shift torque between axles in just 100 milliseconds through its multi-plate central clutch. And inside, you can watch it all going on via a little graphic in the dash, which is fun. Hiding under those bigger haunches is a 36mm wider rear track as well, which gives it even more grip. You might argue that the last thing the 991 needed was more grip, but to be honest, with its PDK box and a front end that finally seems to start talking now, it's got a couple of extra drive shafts in it, I really, really like this car. Just in case you think being four-wheel drive makes it a bit uninteresting, I'm sure it isn't. Even in the wet, you just feel like you can push so much harder. You can really push into corners. Brake late, feel what the front end's doing, and then work it through a corner. The slides on the way out, it stabilises really nicely because the front axle just comes into play. It's quite difficult. You want to drive this really quickly, but you want to keep looking at the views as well. It's just amazing up here. And if you're wondering about the snow, well, we woke up the next morning to discover that the village where we were staying resembled a ski resort. So, like a child at Christmas, I excitedly informed anyone that would listen that it would be extremely unprofessional not to go and find an empty car park to test the four-wheel drive in. What did doing donuts tell me? Well, it certainly cemented how much I like the C4S, and it also meant I spent the flight home daydreaming about entering Rally Sweden.